because we're going to be talking about death and dying, I just want to give you guys a trigger warning. So if you're very sensitive to that, or this is a topic that's going to give you anxiety or freak you out, you might not want to watch this video. I know that we're talking about pregnancy and giving birth and all of that, but trust me, this will make sense when you watch the whole video. All right, let's get into it, guys. So if you have lupus or any other autoimmune disease, then you probably know that for a number of us, trying to survive pregnancy can be basically us risking our lives in a way that women that don't have autoimmune disease, especially lupus, aren't really risking their life. I mean, any woman that's going through pregnancy and giving birth is to an extent risking their life, but not in the same way that we are, right? So this is the thing. This is a very difficult topic to talk about. I had recently a very revealing experience that just brought something to my attention that most women of childbearing age might think about. It might be in the back of your mind, but unless you're someone like me who works in healthcare and is dealing with senior care, this might not be something that you're ever actually seeing the result of what happens when you don't have children. And I just feel like I want you guys to know this. And this is, again, if you're triggered by the topic of death and dying, you might want to skip this one. So here it is, guys. I have this client. She is such a sweet lady. She really is the sweetest person you'll ever meet. She is so thankful for everything that you do for her. Very mothering type of person. She lives in this big house by herself. She was a CNA all her career. She never had children, and now it is the end of her life, and she knows this. She's confided in me that she knows that it is nearing the end for her, and she's not afraid, but she's really upset at the fact that she's alone. She didn't marry, and again, she never had children, and at this point, she's really regretting that decision. So not all women want to have children, and I completely understand this. So if that's your stance on it, that's completely understandable, and then maybe this video isn't for you. But if you're undecided because you have an autoimmune disease, especially lupus, then I just want you to understand both sides of this. So she has come to me crying, very upset, and every time I go to leave this client, it's really difficult because she's holding my hand and doesn't want to let me leave, and oh, it's so hard being here alone all the time. I'm alone all the time. Like, it's just really hard to watch. And it's even harder for me. Like, I just did an update. I just did a health update where I was talking about how I'm turning 35 in a few months in the beginning of April. And one of the things, like, I'm starting to have anxiety, right? And in the health update, I explain, I think part of this is a side effect from Benlysta, but I think part of this also is some things that are going on in my life. And like, this is one of the things that I feel like is giving me anxiety because I know that I'm turning 35. I'm not married. It's been very hard to try to have any kind of relationship with the level of disease activity and all these medications and everything I've had going on, which obviously would make having children impossible. When I was previously engaged to someone and thought that I was in remission, I tried to have children. It was a disaster. I almost died. It was freaking horrible. But seeing this woman at the end of her life in this situation, in this house alone, and really seeing how she feels being in this house alone, and how upset she is, and how much she is regretting the decision not to have children, has been so hard. Like, and I just feel like I don't want to scare any of you if you're younger women of childbearing age. I know that we are putting our life at risk when we, in a large way, when we try to have children as lupus patients or autoimmune disease patients in general. But the consequences of not having children, I don't know that those are any better, to be honest. And it's a perspective that I feel like a lot of you younger women don't get to see unless you work in healthcare or are around seniors that are maybe in this situation, and that's pretty rare. You know, I have this unique perspective on this situation at this point because I have seen so many female seniors that are at the end of their lives and that made the choice never to have children. And they always regret it. I think I've only met one that didn't. So it's really a hard choice for us to make. Put my life on the line or risk being in this situation later in life. But reality is reality, and I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I just really wanted you guys to know this is really what the deal is for us as women. You know, and even for me, like, I'm hoping I can go get stem cell treatment, and if I respond, I do want to try to have a family. If I don't, I don't know what I'm going to do. Hopefully there's some medication they can have me on, because there are certain things, like you can take Imuran during pregnancy, you can take Plaquenil, there's certain things that you can take. A lot of the drugs, obviously, you can't, but I will have to make some very hard decisions. But I don't know. And there's a lot of options too. I mean, for me, I don't really like the idea of adoption. Maybe that's for some people, and if you really feel like you would not be able to survive having children, but you still don't want to be in this position later in life, then yeah, that might be a really good option for you. Or, you know, maybe you end up marrying someone with kids. That also is something. I've dated someone that had kids. It's not something I want anything to do with. God bless you if you can handle that. It just wasn't for me. Really, that's it. I just wanted to come on and explain to you guys that situation, because the closer I'm getting to that advanced maternal age, the more I'm thinking about this, and it's just weighing so heavily on my mind at this point. And also, you know, women are kind of treated like, well, you know, if you're past, 30, you're treated like a senior citizen in this particular way when it comes to pregnancy. So just something for you guys to think about. And I wanted to share that experience. I hope that this helps someone. And I don't mean this to say that you should make a selfish decision in having children. That shouldn't be obviously the only reason to have children. And I know that some of us think about, well, what if this disease is genetic? And what if I end up with a child that has autoimmune disease? And I've been asking myself this same question. And to be honest with you, I would rather have the chance at life. Like, if I had the decision to have somehow not been born, to not deal with this autoimmune disease, or to be here and deal with this autoimmune disease and make as much of a positive impact in my community, in the world, just in general, as I could, I would still choose to be here. So just think about that. Here's another thing that I also personally thought about. There's a lot of people that even I know that were born to parents that had absolutely no idea how to deal with a kid that had this level of medical issues, or didn't know anything about autoimmune disease, and they suffer greatly for it because it took them so long to get a diagnosis. So, you're in a unique position that even if you did have a child that had autoimmune disease, you would know exactly how to deal with it because you're already going through it. And you and that child would have a very unique connection in terms of you would understand everything that they'd be going through. And that's much better off than a child being born with autoimmune disease to a parent that has no idea how to deal with this, because that does happen. I'm not trying to persuade you either way. I just wanted to let all the younger women out there know that there's two sides to this and that there's consequences. There's consequences to making the decision to have children or not to have children. And I think that a lot of times this conversation, although it's hard, about what happens when you choose not to, is really not had with women very often, especially younger women. And I think for you younger women to make an informed decision, you need to understand both sides of this. But at the end of the day, it is your choice. And now I hope that you have all the information you need to make the right decision for you. That's our lupus talk for this week. I was going to go a little bit deeper on narcissism because, God, there's so many out there. And I don't want you guys running into these people. We're kind of more vulnerable to people that are predatory when you're sick like this, in my opinion. We really are. But this was just something I really felt in my heart that I wanted to do a video on this week. So maybe we'll cover that in next week's Lupus Talk. Last week was cheaters and narcissistic abuse. So if you need to watch that video, it is there. I just want to leave you with this. I want you ladies to know that we are not on anybody else's timeline. Just because Jane over here was able to have children in her 20s doesn't mean that you need to be on that timeline. There's women that are having children into their 40s. So to be honest, they usually tell us lupus patients or autoimmune disease patients to wait until we're in remission to try to have children. And however long that takes for you to get to that point is however long it takes. You're on your timeline. That's it. Stay strong, guys.